Hey there, YouTube friends. Maskedbandit here. Thanks so much for hanging out with me again. I always do appreciate it. And welcome back to Cities Skylines II and back to St. Reginald, the city we started in the last episode. Just sitting here at one of our main... Oh, gosh, sounds like an accident. Just sitting here at our main intersection and just kind of seeing what's going on. And I hope you enjoyed that first episode. I got some awesome feedback. And the first thing I wanted to do in this episode was I wanted to go ahead and actually take some of your advice, specifically on some little details that I think are just too fun to pass up. Specifically, one from Messiah for Hire 245 suggested that the lane leading up to the mansion needs to be Robin Crest Lane, and I 100% agree with that idea. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna name that Robin Crest Lane. There we go. And we need to decorate this, so we'll do that after we name the mansion. And from Paul Jr. 4706, he suggested that the Rockstar Mansion is owned by a fudge magnate, and I love that so much. We're gonna call this Lord Kinderly Fudge Manor. And perhaps this is one of the older homes. There was a man who had a fudge whole thing, like a Wonka type thing. And later on, there's a fudge. There's some unique factories we can grab, so that we can bring Lord Kinderly Fudge Manor. We can give him a business that his family has been in control of. Oh, the police are there. The police are visiting the Lord Kinderly Fudge Manor. So that is our fudge magnate. And if you don't know anything about that, there are some bro coaster. You need to watch yourself. The bro coaster, there's a lot of silly things going on. And that's exactly what I was hoping for here. We're not going to snap. We're going to redo this. I realized how uneven it was. It wasn't centered in this area at all. And I think I could do a better job of that. So let me go ahead and just center that. A little better perhaps, and I'm gonna come up here, and what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna go ahead today and we're gonna do this. I'm gonna do a little bit of detailing first today, and then we'll jump into a time lapse and expand the city. Another thing a lot of people were suggesting is the idea that we should have rail as a big part of our history, and I agree with that as well. And a couple ideas about forts sounded really, really cool, so I'll probably be doing stuff with that as well. And perhaps, I don't know if we'll have a fort per se, but perhaps we can have ourselves like a street named after a fort. Like I'm thinking there's in Chicago, Fort Dearborn is one of there's a street in Chicago, and it is named after the fort that stood on the area, but it's a major part of downtown now. There's absolutely no remnants of the actual fort. So we're gonna go ahead and just kind of dial this up a little bit, make this look a little bit more like something privately owned and operated here. And we'll jump back into, what bushes was it? These? Yeah, the cultivated bush. And I can right click to rotate. It's very similar to Planet Coaster. If I otherwise they're all going to be very samesies. And if you notice, the other ones I placed were a little samesies. So I'm making sure this side, not so much. Oh, it's tedious. Would love to have a line tool like we had back in the original. Let's get this taken care of before we press on any further. All right, I think that looks pretty good. I think it really solidifies it as very important and very fancy. As you can see, it's probably the biggest thing in the city. It'll probably be a little while before we get into all the lore that goes with Lord Kinderly, but I'm sure we'll come up with something. And like I said, we're gonna think about that fort idea real hard, but for now it's back to, I guess, playing the game, and we're gonna be expanding today. We're gonna be spreading out in all directions, and so while we're here, you might have seen I unlocked the sports parks so that we could add some fancy stuff for Lord Reginald, for Lord Kinderly family. We're going to also, while we're here, unlock trains, because that seems to be a big thing that I think needs to be a part of this world. So we're gonna, I don't know if we'll add the trains today. We might retrofit them, but yeah, they're unlocked, and it's in the back of my head as to how to best incorporate them. So yeah, let's jump into a time lapse today and see what direction we end up in. Just kind of, again, expanding. I would love it if we could get most of this island tackled today, at least sprawled, and then really, again, start developing our upper our core section here. Probably all this, hopefully by the end of the episode, will be medium density. We'll see. I'm not really sure. Let's just kind of play and see where the world takes us, and I'll see all of you on the other side of this cut. All right, so here we are with expansion, phase 1, building up the island. We're going to be continuing this grid pattern here as best as we can, pushing some dirt around, some soil around, making the ground flat where it feels like that would be a reasonable request, and then working with the terrain as well when that feels like a reasonable request. So started here. I figured smoothing things out would be beneficial for everyone involved, and just trying to do some interesting things with the road here to break up the grid. I know I said it was going to be very grid based, which it is, but here around around the coast, it makes a lot more sense for me to kind of like close things off. It allows us to have nice, hopefully green space here around the city. I think that'd be kind of cool. And of course, we will be delving into, developing coastlines and things like that. That'll be something fun that we can get into once the city is a little bit more up off the ground. So here, there's a good example of that curved road there. Just giant hill, can't go over it, can't go through it, gotta go around it, kind of a thing. Some angles here and there, again, to avoid massive hills in an otherwise flat part of the map. And then, just to make it squared a bit more, just cutting off a bit of the hill and then smoothing it out. The smooth terrain tool in this is very, very powerful. I kind of dig it a lot. So here we are continuing our urbanification of the core, circled around what I've named as Bro Park. I do need a good name for this park. Something Easter eggy to the channel would be super fun. Have these little odd spaces, perfect places to squeeze in things like small parks or playgrounds to boost the attractiveness of the area for residents. And it gives me a chance to practice detailing, given all we have, our paths and foliage. Not a lot to do, but I think if I take the time to do it here, it's actually going to turn out really nice. And I'm pretty pleased with it. It just makes it feel a lot more concretized, a lot more a part of the space. Unlocked a building there. I think it's this movie star, so I'll have to look into that. I'm gonna need another name for that. But this is where the real meat and potatoes of the episode starts to take shape. We've kind of run out of room for industry here, and with Lord Kinderly over there, it didn't make any sense to have the industry continue to inch towards that property. So that meant we had to go ahead and cross the river here, which sort of leans into the lore of what is going to be St. Reginald, which is kind of fun to think about. Use this new curve tool here. I hadn't used it before. It's really powerful for things, for like S-bends like this, especially on slopes. Really happy with the way that the incline towards the bridge went. I think that looks really nice. But anyway, there's thought in my mind that this city's going to be heavily based, the history is going to be heavily based on rail and port, and the combination of those. And so, with that being said, I felt like it only made sense to try and shore up this shoreline of our first little industry area to make it look a lot more official. This is one of my first times doing this key wall business, which is kind of tedious and not at all as easy as it could be. I learned a bunch of tips from like infrastructurist and city planner plays and a lot of other city skyliners on city skyline YouTubers to try and get it as easy as possible. But I mean, it for a first attempt, I'm pretty okay with it. And actually, this is going to propel us into the main part of today's episode, which is going to be, well, the original port. It is not very large, you will see here as once we cross the river, as I try to finish up this little area. But yeah, we're going to be building a port today, and at least a smaller one. It looks really big at first until you unlock the the ships and you try and put a cargo port in. It is a massive building, and it just dwarfs everything I will have built up to this point. So, but look at how nice this looks. I think it turned out really well. Again, this trick of using a 4-lane road and then switching to the smaller roads from Infrastructurist, really good idea. It's much easier to use the larger roads. And then I did a bad job here. I put the water in before I was really ready, but I was able to work around it and still have it look pretty good. Had some tearing of the textures here, but with a smaller brush size with a bit stronger strength, I was able to clean it up and just, fleshing it all out, making it look really nice. And now we can expand into the main port area here. And so we're going to flatten a big chunk of this land out, as ports need to be on relatively flat land. And it presents an interesting kind of dynamic here as this bridge swings over what is going to be a port. I kind of like what ended up happening is a bunch of the roads of our port are underneath this bridge, which is really kind of cool. Kind of feels like maybe this bridge was built after the port was in place, or maybe after a new port had been built and this was relegated to smaller. I'm not quite sure about how it works. Again, I don't know a lot about city design, but it makes sense that an older port back here, maybe one original explorers, and it built up throughout time, and eventually as the city grew, a larger, more established, higher volume port was needed. And this one, for now, will be our industrial area. But I could see in the future, when and if we design a big functioning port, we could de-zone and rezone and repurpose this, turn it into luxury, very fancy apartments and stuff, and really play off of the history of the area and transform it into something a lot more desirable. But I think that's a long ways down the road. I wanted to go ahead and show you here this small, I think I'm really enjoying the small brush, high intensity. Again, this is very similar to working with terrain and Planet Coaster in a lot of ways. Different brush sizes and different brush strengths for different applications. So you can see here, we're kind of smoothing out the edge of the man-made portion to kind of get back to nature. And I'm really happy with the way this looks. I really like the way it, you've got the two parts that jut out on either side of the bridge. I think that's a neat look. Try to do some bit more terrain stuff here. I gotta play with it some more to get used to it. And then felt I needed to smooth out the water to make it look a little less gross. I really was unhappy with my road laying here. I feel like what we end up with is okay. I wanted to maximize zoning in some ways and yet make it look good in others, and I'm not sure how good this turned out. It's okay, and in the real-time portion we'll take a look at it up close and slowed down, obviously, but I think it looks okay. It didn't quite click. It wasn't quite as compact and succinct as I wanted it to be. Here we are dropping in some rail. I decided that we should put rail in. I know in the intro, I wasn't sure if we were going to get to it. We absolutely are. I feel it's important to really get the history, the rail history of this city. I think this would still be a functioning, or maybe it won't. I had an idea today, again, inspired by $2.20. He, in one of his more recent episodes, he had an abandoned train line. That was just such a good idea, and it looked so nice. And then I saw a picture as I was on Facebook today of an old trolley line in Chicago that no longer exists, and now it's a trail, green belt trail. And I think of all the rails that turn into walking trails now. And that's a really fun idea that I would love to explore. This is kind of a weird thing to be playing this game and building it for the current needs of the city with intentions to repurpose later. It's kind of weird having, it feels like you're playing two different games at once. Like, we've got our now problems that will become future problems. I don't know, maybe I'm just rambling. But it's in the back of my head what this could be in the future, even though it is currently this. Tried to do some more with the key walls here. I'm not really happy with how this turned out, which is why it's just kind of sitting there. I'm gonna sit on it, let it mull around in my brain. Tell me what you think. I figured I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with the cargo yard or with the train yard, but it made sense to have it in this area. Again, originally maybe this is where all train traffic ended up. I don't know. So for now, it makes total sense. Perhaps there's a time down the line where it will move, or we'll add another one. Who knows? It's my first time using rails in this game. Don't come at me. I'm sure they're not very good. I need to do some research on train lines and how they all work together. And for right now, all I really wanted to do was connect our cargo yard to the outside rail. So we're just doing a real down and dirty crossing here, down and dirty bridge. The one thing I am trying to do is keep my incline and decline within reason. I know trains, the grade is really important when you're designing train crossings. So just something I'm kind of thinking about as we do this. Decided to come at it from another direction because I just wasn't getting what I wanted. And actually this ended up working a lot better. Again, it crosses too many lanes of cars of highway, I think, but for now it'll work. Again, I'll revisit it perhaps in the future. And here we are hooking up that cargo line. Just kind of redoing it till it looks good. I am very impressed. Trains function a lot better, or at least laying of rail is a lot better in this game than it was in the first one. You can get really gradual and natural looking rail designs, and so that's pretty cool. So here we are hooking up that line to the outside, making that outside connection line, and realizing that we don't have any water. So getting that taken care of. Gonna put in some zoning. Thought about like trying to do custom zoning, but at this point our industrial need was so very high, it just made too much sense to just mass zone. So yep, there we are adding our water in. And there's already trucks coming to and fro. That's pretty cool to see some trucks crossing through some potential office use down. Just to kind of diversify the area a little bit. I'm actually pretty pleased that there's a lot of warehouses and stuff, not as many smokestacks. I mean, there's still a bunch, but it's not nearly as gross looking as it potentially could be. Unlocking the parking lots here, I figured that would be a great use of space here, parking in our port area, kind of to take up the space and make it a little more concrete and a little more, industrial looking. A lot of too much green space. One of the things I saw people doing on YouTube was using these stone quarries to fill up your industrial space, and I think that's super cool. You get the benefit of that gray ground texture, and you even get a little bit of stone, which is great because it's one of the major resources used in the game. And to provide it will help us save money in the long run. And it'll be good for our business. So after the port area, we jump back into the city and we made a fairly larger park. It's not as big as the currently named Bro Park, but it is a large plaza, and we're just decorating it here, making it look pretty. Trying to use some of the different foliage types. Decided to use some of the wild flowering bushes right here because those look pretty nice. It's a little hard to tell too because it's fall. Not quite sure what it's going to look like, but I think it looks pretty all right for now. So yeah, just kind of trying to make things make sense. there's so many people out there that are so very talented, and I'm just trying to soak up as much as I can and kind of try to put my own twist on it, trying to make it my own, be inspired, but not copying those people that I'm watching so much of, because man, it is hard because we don't have quite a lot. I know some mods are out there, but I'm not ready for that yet. Maybe in the future. I mean, I know that it's kind of upsetting that all this stuff is being put on hold for a while they take care of the game. I mean, it's the right choice. It's just frustrating that the game was released in such a clearly unfinished state. But anyway, here we are. We are working on a small, low rent project kind of thing. Decided to play around with path designs. I think that could be a fun thing. I know it's not symmetrical, but I really like it, and I really like how nice those oak trees fit in there. Once they inevitably grow up, I'm going to be very excited. And then, of course, we unlocked the mixed-use zoning a while ago, which is my favorite zoning in the game. And so it's time to start further diversifying, further urbanizing, increasing the density. Decided to throw that avenue across the river just as a reminder to not forget to do it. Look at all them cranes, and we're throwing in more apartments and replacing old commercial with new residential and mixed use, and isn't that great? I'm really excited now with the industrial area over here, and we can really focus on the two different parts of the city. I think it's going to look really, really good. Look at that. It's already, even in the sped up version, looking really nice. I'm really happy with how this little area came out. Just a few row homes, but it was an odd shaped grid. And so it allowed me to throw an alleyway in there. And I know people have a view of the bridge, which isn't great, but maybe those just cost a lot less. I think of when I mentioned I used to live in a 3-flat in the north side of Chicago. We were right against the L, so it was less than desirable. But anyway, that's about all we're going to have for our time lapse. A little bit longer today. Let's jump in and take a look here at the real time, what we've got done in today's episode. The sights, smells, and sounds of progress, of industrial prowess. Boy, from down here, this would be awful if you actually had to live here. Like if you worked here in the cargo yard. Oh my gosh, in the train yard. That's where we are, by the way. Here comes some lovely vehicles. Welcome to the old port of St. Reginald. Let's zoom out a little and take a look at it here. Oh, look at this. I'm really happy with it. Lots of green, which is a little unfortunate, but it's something I'm gonna be all right living with. It's gonna be a little green for now. Oh, we have a train coming in, I think, but they tend to come in backwards over here. Let's see. Let's see what kind of train we got. Yeah, it's coming in backwards, but I love the look of the. Look at that. That looks so awesome. I think the trains look so good in this game compared to the first one. The engines, it's really, really nice. I think it's done really, really well. So tell me what you think of our harbor area here. I like this. It's kind of weird. It's small, and I was going to go all the way out to here, but I think I might stop the harbor here. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this area right here, with this Applegate Lane. I don't think I like it. I think I could just terraform it au natural, and I think it would look better. So that's probably what we'll end up doing. So let's see if we're going to go ahead and replace this office zoning with some more industrial. And we're going to add some more industrial. Oh, that's a parking lot. Yeah, so we're going to do that. And maybe we'll add some more industrial back in this area. Figure probably surround the cargo yard with industrial. But that was the big addition in today's episode, and I'm really pleased with it. I think it's a pretty good first attempt at a proper harbor area. It's not something I've ever done in original Cities Skylines, I don't think. And what I'd like to start doing is removing some of this industry and shunting it across the water so we can make this a much more established neighborhood. But you can see here, we have advanced the city quite a bit. This whole area here was developed today. Here is the better look at the low rent complex. A little tall, but I think eventually I think the density will meet it. I'm assuming most of this island will be mostly upper medium density and above by the time all is said and done. And I think with that being said, we need to do some quick upzoning here. Make some of this a little bit bigger and a little bit fancier. Like, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna upzone some of this stuff. I think, like, we've got a great need for all of our zoning types. And if I look here in our population, our unemployment is 9.5%, which is actually pretty high. I'd like to get that down, but the issue is if we come into here, workplace availability, it shows that we have lots of well-educated positions available. In fact, that's where most of our empty employment is, and we don't, and the only way to fulfill that is to build a college. So I think in the next episode we are definitely going to look at getting a college. But the first thing I want to do here in our live portion here to finish up today's episode is just mass spam some commercial along Bro Street. I guess it would have changed names, but we'll continue to call it Bro Street for now. So, and then I want to come in and I want to start really upzoning around in here. I feel like all of this should be medium zoning, and I definitely want to go ahead and rezone. I don't want anything to be too terribly tall, so I'm going to avoid 6x6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a little 3x4 and have that come in, and we'll do a 2x3 and maybe a 2x4. Yeah. And then I'd like to come in and do maybe a 4x4. That is a thing. Cool. And we'll do another 2x4. And we'll let all that build in. And then back here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go in with the medium density. We're going to kind of do the same thing. We're going to do a big 2x6. I don't even know if that's not even an option. And we'll put a 3x6. We'll see how far these go. Let's see if I delete that. There we go. And then we'll do a 4x4, I think, and we'll see how that looks once it's all up and running. And we're gonna really make this whole area feel real special. And my goal is to, I think what I wanna do is, I think on this corner right here, all of our commercial demand has disappeared. It's slowly coming back. What I wanna do is I do wanna have one 6x6, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would like all of this. And yeah, I want this to be our tallest building in the city. And by creating this a 6x6, that guarantees, I think, we'll find out that it should be the tallest. And we'll come in and we'll just do some different zoning sizes again here. Let all of this do its thing. And we'll probably have some assets, probably have some that look the same, but now these can't work for me, so we're going to go in and we're going to fiddle with the medium density housing, get rid of these row homes, come in here and do a bit more of this kind of stuff, just different sizes to create a nice look. Let's do a 4x5. I don't know if that's an option. And you can see our medium density needs have absolutely tanked. That's okay. We will allow it to exist. And what's going on here? We could absolutely pop one in there as well. Gonna let all that fill in. Now you'll be wondering, what about all this space back here? Well, eventually I hope that we'll be zoning a lot of this in, and perhaps we'll find other ways to maximize our zoning usage. But like, I don't know, I'm just really excited to see our big old buildings pop up here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to continue to develop our density outward. Bro Park's going to continue to look better and better as more and more buildings grow around it. Like, these row houses no longer feel like they're gonna make sense for us. It looks like it's snowing. Oh, isn't that lovely? Yay, it's snowing. So, and yeah, so I guess, snow, not necessarily the prettiest, but here it is. Here's our 6x6 mixed use building, and I just think that's a spectacular cap to the episode. And you can see we're starting to form our downtown core. We will continue to develop this in the next episode, and we will continue to develop this island, and who knows what the next episode will bring us. So I will zoom out. You can see where we're at Definitely going to add a college in the next episode, probably over here somewhere that looks like a good place, or maybe up on the hill. Been thinking of what we could do with that hill. That might be nice. Would also like to clean up the water by getting an advanced filtration system. So plans. Tell me what you want to see, what direction we should go, what should we build, what should we do. Would love to hear your feedback on that, and hopefully you are enjoying. And if you are, do please hit the like button. And if you're new, do consider subscribing for more City Skylines 2 content. With all that being said, have yourself a great day, great night, great whatever, and let's just take a look at our main bro street. And I will see all of you for the next episode of St. Reginald here in City Skylines 2. Take care, everyone, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.